All right. So, real quick, I want to just review for you guys the difference between perfect competition and a monopoly. So, if you remember a perfect competition market, we're going to assume that these markets are profit maximizers. And we're going to um, look at their how a profit maximizing perfect competition firm behaves in the long run equilibrium and then compare it to a monopolist. So we already have a sense that they're going to be in, we know they're going to be in price and quantity space. And we're going to start with the marginal cost curve, which is going to be upward sloping or hook shaped. So it might be like this. It might not have that hook visible. Doesn't really matter for our purposes. We're going to have that marginal cost curve. And then we can assume that our firm is also going to have an average total cost curve, which crosses marginal cost at its minimum, and a average variable cost curve, which is going to be a little bit lower and approach average total cost in the long run. Right? And then what we want to do is get a little bit closer there. Remember that in perfect competition, price is going to be equal to marginal revenue. And that's because of our perfect competition assumptions. Basically, the fact that there are many firms and firms can enter and exit freely and all the goods are the same means that no one can charge a higher price than anyone. And so they're all subject to the market forces of supply and demand, right? So there's some demand curve, some supply curve, and marginal revenue is just going to be equal to whatever price is set by the market. Let me fix that for y'all. So that's our marginal revenue right there, right? So then what we want to do is put in that marginal revenue curve. And basically it's just going to be wherever the price is for this market. So I'm going to put a price for starters. That's just right here. Well, we can have the price be anywhere as high or low as we want. It's going to be given by the market. If the price is below average variable costs, then the firm is going to shut down in the short run and exit in the long run. Remember, the shutdown rule is a short run decision to leave the market based on variable costs. The exit rule is a long run decision to completely exit the market and stop paying all costs altogether. And that's based on total cost because you have to consider both fixed and variable costs. So anywhere below average variable cost on the marginal cost curve, you're going to shut down in the short run, exit in the long run. Anywhere between those two curves, this section of the marginal cost curve right there, you're going to produce in the short run, not shut down, but you will exit in the long run. So basically, you're making enough money to pay for labor and materials, but you're not covering rent. So as soon as you can get out of your lease or sell your equipment, then you will. Anywhere above the average total cost curve, this section of the marginal cost curve, that's where firms are going to be earning economic profit. And so new firms are going to enter the marketplace, which is going to shift the supply curve out, lowering the price and increasing and decreasing profits. Long run equilibrium occurs at marginal cost is equal to average total cost is equal to marginal revenue. So that's our marginal revenue curve there. And that's going to be our long run equilibrium condition for perfect competition because there's no incentive for anything to change. So in perfect competition now, no one's going to exit, no one's going to enter, no one's going to shut down. Costs are being covered, explicit and implicit costs, fixed and variable costs, but no, there's no profit being earned, and so there's no reason for new firms to enter the market. So that's perfect competition. A monopolist is different because a monopolist is a price maker. When we go back to our market forces of supply and demand, this is no longer marginal revenue because instead of having so many firms that you only see that price, now I'm the only firm. And so I see the willingness to pay of each individual consumer. That's what that demand curve is, right? It's each consumer's willingness to pay. So I see that if I raise prices, the quantity I sell is going to go down. If I lower prices, the quantity I sell is going to go up. So I still have my average total cost, average variable cost, and marginal cost curves. But now, and actually we're not going to worry about average variable cost anymore because we're not going to worry about shutting down. We're going to talk just about how the long run is different for a monopolist than for perfect competition. So now I want to not just worry about marginal cost and average total cost. I want to consider the demand curve, because as a monopolist, I see demand because I'm the only one producing it. So I know that if I raise prices or lower prices, it's going to have an effect. In perfect competition, there's hundreds of firms like me, all producing the exact same thing. So if I raise or lower prices, if I raise prices, people just go buy it from someone else. If I lower prices, yeah, maybe I can undercut people a little bit, but then everyone else will have to lower prices. And I probably can't lower prices because then I'd have to either exit or shut down. So now I want to, let's do it this way. I've got some demand curve here, and then I'm going to have a marginal revenue curve below that demand curve. So I'm going to produce at, I'm not my erase pen. Marginal revenue equal to marginal cost. That's the quantity, that's the profit maximizing quantity. I'm going to charge a price based on the demand curve. So that's the price charged to consumers. And then I'm going to still, just like in perfect competition, have to face some average total cost associated with that. What that means is now when I want to calculate profits, remember profit is going to be revenue minus total cost. So I'm going to be earning a marginal revenue based on the price I'm charging, and my average total cost is going to be how much it costs me to produce every unit. So I'm going to be earning economic profit associated with this rectangle here. If this was perfect competition, firms would enter and lower the prices and compete with me. But it's not. There's some kind of barrier to entry that stops other firms from competing with me, and that's why monopolists are allowed to produce. One last thing is we want to remember the costs associated with a monopolist. So if I draw this one more time, so I've got my marginal cost curve, downward sloping demand, marginal revenue curve is always going to be below it. Firms are a monopolist is going to produce at marginal revenue equal to marginal cost. So that's a monopolist equilibrium. They're going to charge based on the demand curve. So that's the price the monopolists would charge consumers. If we were in perfect competition, we would expect this level of consumption to prevail, where demand is equal to the marginal cost for the firm. So that would be our quantity of perfect competition. And so there's a deadweight loss associated with having monopolies, and we can consider it to be this triangle here. That's the deadweight loss associated with monopolies coming from reduced quantities and higher prices. Okay, hopefully that's a useful review. Let me know what questions you have. Check out Canvas. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks so much.